butter thing, where it put our two stories together, and that felt full enough. So it was cool because the beginning is straight from the book, and I got that, like, you know, hair standing up on your arms, who's like, oh my God, they just filmed this. This is like, I'm making this up and now I'm watching it. And then by the end, I was like, who are these people? I got to watch it as a viewer. And then
They changed.
Whatever he did, you know, he sort of made it, I think he gave it a little bit more mass appeal. And Netflix, they release it in like 136 countries. So it has to like do well in rural Peru and Bahasa, and you know, and it did. So I took all those notes, I threw them out, and yeah, and he did it, and it's, you know, it's a dream come true.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I think you'll never relive that moment, you know.
I hope I do.
Yeah, well,
I know what you're saying.
But you know, like that 17-year journey, and I think, you know, obviously the big takeaway here, as it even was in the previous panel with scripts, there's no easy journey. There's no linear journey. It can be timing. It can be who sees it, who comes across the book. But with the adaptation, and you guys are all on, you know, obviously different development points in your career. And Justin, I want to bring you in. Your books are amazing. They're like sci-fi, fiction, very timely with AI and medicine. And you have a psychiatric background, which I think all writers at this point need therapy so they can get through the process. But when you are writing this, and Jeanell, you actually really put it very eloquently, you are sort of, all of you are the masters of your universe. When you're creating, especially fiction, you're creating everything. You're staging it, you're creating the characters, the background, the backdrop. And when you write, are you imagining how that will be processed on screen? And it's a 2-point question. Do you write like that first read? And if you could choose your director for your latest work, Hospital at the End of the Earth, who would you choose?
Okay, all right.
Just thought I'd throw a tough question.
The second one, I'm probably delaying stone. So I think that there are, when I'm writing, I think there are some scenes where after writing it, it's like, oh, you know, it would be cool to see this on a big screen. And actually, on the other side of things, you know, when I'm watching movies, I notice how elaborate, like the set design is, and a lot more detail than what I may focus on. So that I'm also wondering, like, oh, I wonder what, you know, this is somebody else's mind, like what they're going to like run with, right? You know, so I kind of internally get a little excited about that. Like, what might I see that I didn't even realize was like in the story in some way, and then it comes forth in that. Man, you know, just I don't even know.
Maybe not the director, maybe the lead.
But, you know, the Oscar-winning person that just won the Oscar. I don't want to say any names. I don't want to jinx it. But, you know, anybody got up on the sale, just let them know, young black brother, but love you.
We'll put it out there. So, yeah.
I just want to add on that piece because it's interesting. Our publishing house, we pride ourselves at sitting at the intersection of entertainment and publishing. And I get asked a million times over, how do you all choose the books you're going to say yes to, right? Like that comes up a lot. So what's unique about our ecosystem is the community of readers that helps with our selection, they are not in publishing. And traditional publishers are like, oh, what are you doing over there? I'm like, no, the people that I have reading our books and filling out the exact same assessment when we provide them with a project are anywhere from a casting director to costume designer. You know, if someone has touched a creative project, I want them to tell me, what do you see in this? Because what you all are trusting, and I think you touched on this as well, Matt, is when you relinquish the rights to your story, you are inviting a ton of other artisans in to develop that story. You're trusting them that you set a vision, but now you're inviting their creative genius to help evolve and adapt that. So for me, when I'm looking at something and say, you know, does this have adaptation potential? Yes, I'll talk to my screenwriter friends. Okay, great. Is the narrative deep enough? Are there multiple characters I can play with? Okay, cool. But I also want to ask the parts of the craft of filmmaking and television that you don't often get to connect with, what they would do with this story, right? And that helps me see from different perspectives as a publisher who is wanting to uproot the adaptation cycle with the goal of greater representation of stories, helps me really see that there's potential for artists to take what I'm seeing and turn it into something even bigger. That's what I look for. So again, when you were asking that earlier question of like, are you writing for screen? Don't write for screen. Let those artists whose focus, their 20, 30, 40-year careers sometimes have been putting something onto screen, let them help you think about what that looks like. You focus on the story. The story is the gateway. Like, that's the most important piece in all this.
I think that's great, and that's also, I think, where great scripts start and stories, all stories start, in a lens of authenticity. You write what you know, and then if you don't know it, you know, there's always elements of who you are in every story that I'm sure you've written. Keith, I'm going to pull you into the conversation because your story obviously is very deeply tied to you. And that's very different. I mean, it's one thing to write characters where you maybe loop in people that remind you of someone, or, you know, like, I'm going to write the mom character, it reminds me of this woman I used to know, but your character is your book, it's biographical. It's a character. You are a character, but it's, you know, how do you know, it's very specific. So I guess when you're writing something like that, and like you said, it got optioned, if suddenly they started drafting the script and it sounds like it got far, were there things that were being, what did you want to shine through of your story?
The biggest fight for me was me constantly trying to remind them that I've given them the story. Right? The cadence, the story, the characters, I've laid it out. Just take the story as the roadmap. But you get certain people who, like, I had a showrunner writer who just so happened had went through some things with Quirk in the Power series, right? Where he tried to personalize it too much. And so, not knowing that at the time, so when I get the first script, like, why do you have people in my story growing up in Chicago? No one wants the whole story taking place in
Oh my God, why not just put a Bronx?
Chicago and then move to Watson. I met them on a basketball playground. No, the whole story I grew up with the project. Like, so that's the part where it was becoming like overwhelming. But when you option it, like, you only have so much leverage, right? It's like they don't create a story how they visit and how they think it's going to play on screen. And so it got to a point where I just stopped giving people calls. Like, just let me read the because they'll send you the script and you can go along with it and you can put your notes in it. But like, they may hear it, they may not.
Well, and I think, you know, and that, I think that authenticity, you don't want to lose that. I think with representation today, and it's obviously been a very hot topic in the last 5 years, but your story starts in what?
Yeah.
It's who made you.
For me, like, even my story, like, I wrote my story for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to take back the narrative, right? I didn't want to just be a soundbite, right? Like a clickbait. From prison to executive chef, from projects to this. So, because there's so much that happens in between that, like, you're giving this false narrative that it was easy for me. And so, like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tell my story, I'm gonna take back the narrative, and then it can't spin it anymore. And also, in writing my story, there's a demographic of people that I'm speaking to. That was what was important to me, right? Like, I now have this platform where people can hear me. And so I know when I was growing up, when you tried to give me advice, one of my number one things was, I don't want to hear that. Like, you don't know what I'm going through. And so I wanted to dispel that. I wanted to share my story 100% honestly about the struggles, the stripes, like what I went through. So once you know my story, and now I can advise you, you can't tell me I'm going to. You worked in property, I grew up. You did time in prison. You battle drug addiction. You're battling sobriety right now. Like, it's your first time opening business. Like, there's nothing you can say, I don't know what you're going through, so now it's a better chance for you to hear me. And so when I'm writing my story to talk to people, and then you option it, you change the story, like, that's like, it really bothers me, because I'm not doing this for entertainment. It's not like, you get what I'm saying? Like, this is serious business for me. And so the idea of getting it on screen was for me to reach a larger audience with the truth, not fiction.
Yeah, no, absolutely.